On the very first day of his adult life, Hajime finds himself in a terrifying situation, his eyes wide with utter shock. Out of nowhere, a massive, confident woman looms over him, her presence hinting at an unexpected and overwhelming encounter. She seems to have him exactly where she wants him. 22-year-old Hajime Ogami lies awake, consumed by anxiety as tomorrow marks his daunting first day as a true adult. His heart races with immense nervousness over the impending changes in his life. Adding to his stress, Hajime faces a major relocation, as his job requires him to move from Tokyo all the way to Fukuoka. The distant transfer only heightens his feelings of isolation. Now in an unfamiliar city, Hajime feels utterly alone, with no one to support him as he begins this new chapter. He questions if he can truly handle the weight of this overwhelming new reality. Hajime lets out a heavy sigh, the exhaustion and stress of his situation visibly weighing him down. Hoping to clear his head, Hajime decides to step outside and get some fresh air. Standing under the moonlight, Hajime gazes out at the sprawling city lights, finding a moment of quiet reflection. He settles onto a set of stairs, seeking a quiet spot to gather his thoughts amidst the vast urban landscape. After a deep exhale, Hajime feels a slight sense of relief, the fresh air slowly easing his anxieties. Hajime feels a surge of motivation, declaring that nothing beats a refreshing late-night walk to clear his head. He finds comfort in the city lights, realizing that even in this unfamiliar place, they offer a sense of peace. Hajime discovers the unexpected fun of aimlessly exploring a new city, then notices a particularly shady-looking back alley. He decides to snap a picture of the industrial scene, pleased with how surprisingly good the shot turns out. To his surprise, a large woman appears beside him, agreeing with his observation about the unexpectedly cool industrial fans he's just photographed. He begins to explain his fascination to her. Their eyes meet in a moment of intense surprise, Hajime's shock contrasting with the woman's subtle blush. Hajime tumbles backward in pure terror, yelling out to demand who this mysterious woman is. The woman, introducing herself as Usagi Takatsuki, casually states she's just a friendly neighborhood drunk passing through, then asks for his name. A flustered Hajime manages to introduce himself. Usagi questions if Hajime is old enough to drink, surprised by his youthful appearance, and he confirms he is 22. Hajime then turns the question back to her, asking what she's doing in this place. She reveals that the person she was drinking with earlier completely ditched her, leaving her alone in the alley. Usagi explains she was quite angry, so she decided to take a walk to cool her head and clear her thoughts. Walking through these back alleys, Usagi admits she finds it unexpectedly calming and difficult to explain. Usagi takes a sip from her drink and smiles, telling Hajime that these walks just feel right and are incredibly relaxing. Hajime looks on, still visibly surprised by her. Hajime, flustered and blushing, emphatically tells Usagi that he completely understands her sentiment. Hajime continues, explaining that a night walk helps him clear his head, and seeing the city lights makes him feel less alone. He shares his personal connection to the urban landscape. Usagi looks at Hajime with a soft blush, agreeing that the feeling of comfort from the city lights is truly undeniable. Overjoyed by their shared feelings, Usagi suddenly embraces Hajime in a powerful hug, crushing him against her chest. Hajime screams in shock and discomfort at the unexpected closeness. Usagi then leans in, asking Hajime if he has any plans for the rest of the night, while a bewildered Hajime hesitantly admits he doesn't really. Under the glow of the full moon, Usagi begins to make a proposition, her words hanging in the air. Usagi looks directly at Hajime with a suggestive smile, asking him to help her blow off some steam. Hajime is utterly flustered by Usagi's suggestion, demanding to know what she means by blowing off steam, and if he should just come with her. His face is a mask of shock and confusion. Without waiting for an answer, Usagi grabs Hajime's hand and pulls him along, running through the city streets. Hajime is completely taken by surprise. The sounds of enthusiastic chomping and munching fill the air, indicating they are now eating something. Usagi belts out a passionate karaoke tune, declaring her love for Inuiman, with gusto, while Hajime sits awkwardly behind her, clearly unsure how to react to her intense performance. Hajime apologizes, admitting he doesn't know the older version of the Inuiman song he was asked to pick, lamenting that the vibe is totally dead even though he chose an anime song as instructed. Usagi is dismayed, insisting a different song is the only true Inuiman pick. Usagi sighs, wondering if this difference in song preference is what people call a generation gap, reluctantly accepting the possibility. Hajime looks downcast, feeling the weight of Usagi's disappointment as she internally judges him as kind of a letdown. Usagi leans in close to Hajime, her chest pressing against him, and declares it's time to go as Hajime reacts with another surprised whoa. Usagi asks Hajime if something is wrong, noticing his discomfort, but he quickly dismisses her concern, claiming he's just thinking about the next song. Hajime suddenly realizes the implications of being alone in a private room with Usagi and thinks to himself that this situation is actually a dream scenario. His face flushes with a mix of surprise and excitement. Hajime finds himself utterly flustered, unsure where to direct his gaze as Usagi beams up at him. Usagi's ample chest presses even closer against Hajime. Usagi urges him to hurry, and a flustered Hajime quickly agrees. Usagi enthusiastically cheers him on, declaring she doesn't know the song but demands he give it his absolute best. As the lyrics appear on screen, Hajime realizes with dread what kind of song this is. Hajime panics, realizing it's a song with spoken word and rap parts, finding the situation utterly embarrassing. Hajime struggles through the song, while Usagi's relentless heckling tells him to sing from his gut because she can't understand a word he's saying. Hajime is utterly mortified, lamenting that his dream scenario has completely reversed into the worst possible outcome. Usagi leans in, asking if he's getting stage fright, and Hajime admits he usually only does solo karaoke. She reassures him, telling him to relax and just sing, even as Hajime internally notes her earlier teasing. She orders another round, telling Hajime to drink up as she notices his glass is still full. As the music blasts, Usagi pours her entire soul into the microphone, radiating an incredible, infectious energy. Completely breathless but wearing a massive smile, she proudly declares her stress totally melted away, thanking her new companion for saving her night. Before they square up the bill to head out, Usagi reaches for her pack, asking if he minds if she sneaks in a quick smoke first. The duo steps out of the main room and guides themselves into the establishment's designated smoking lounge. Usagi playfully teases him about the habit, only to look on in surprise when he pulls out a sleek vape instead of a traditional cigarette. Leaning back against the glass, she gently asks what exactly drove him out into the lonely city streets for a late-night walk in the first place. Hajime opens up, confessing he just relocated from Tokyo for a brand new corporate job, and the crushing anxiety of fitting into an unfamiliar environment was tearing him apart. Usagi offers a knowing, mischievous smirk, teasingly pointing out that he seems to be communicating perfectly fine with her despite his supposed social nerves. He blushes intensely, unable to argue with her logic, but she immediately softens her expression to offer some genuine adult wisdom. She firmly reminds him to stop sweating the small stuff, assuring him that the real corporate world is nothing like high school. In the professional world, he doesn't need to force himself to make best friends with everyone, as long as he fulfills his duties, the rest of the day is smooth sailing. Her words hit home, painting a picture of adulthood that feels far less daunting than the impossible mountain he had imagined. Hajime looks up with wide, hopeful eyes, questioning if surviving as a functional adult is truly that simple, receiving an immediate, confident nod from her. She insists there is absolutely no need to completely reinvent himself or force a mature persona overnight. To his absolute astonishment, Usagi pulls out her phone and smoothly hands over her personal contact information. She generously tells him that whenever the weight of the world gets too heavy, he has an open invitation to rely on her for a shoulder to lean on. With a heavy, reassuring pat on his back, she tells him to head into his first day with total confidence, leaving him deeply touched. Generously picking up the tab for their wild evening, she orders him to wait outside while she handles the front counter. As she walks away, Hajime stands beneath the dim hallway lights, his mind racing as he tries to process this whirlwind encounter. He looks out into the night, feeling an incredible surge of gratitude for the chaotic, beautiful soul that stumbled into his life. Thanks to Usagi's unexpected warmth, the terrifying cloud hanging over his move to Fukuoka has completely vanished. When she finally steps out to join him, his chest is filled with a newfound courage for the daunting day ahead. But the sentimental atmosphere is instantly shattered when Usagi's face suddenly contorts into a comically horrified grimace. Before he can even ask what's wrong, she frantically rushes to his side, panic written all over her face. In a spectacular comedic disaster, the massive amount of alcohol catches up to him, sending him doubling over as he violently purges his stomach right onto the pavement. Slumped over in absolute mortification, Hajime wishes the ground would swallow him whole, while an equally panicked Usagi tries to stabilize the situation. Wiping away a massive bead of sweat, Usagi looks completely humiliated by how wildly out of hand her helpful night became. She frantically tries to laugh it off, desperately assuring him that this kind of absolute chaos is completely normal for her. With her protective composure totally shattered, she sadly confesses that she always puts up a tough front, only to end up looking like a complete disaster. Sinking into a deep emotional spiral, she laments that her name truly suits her, because just like a fragile rabbit, she feels like she might literally die of loneliness if left alone. Looking down in shame, she apologizes for dumping an absolute mountain of heavy baggage onto a younger guy she literally just met in an alleyway. She lets out a highly erratic, manic laugh, completely overwhelmed by her own unpredictable emotional state. Her laughter turns into a dramatic gag, clutching her forehead as she dramatically claims she must have broken a wire inside her brain. Hajime can only watch in complete silence, completely stunned by the sheer velocity of her mood swings. He internally recalculates his entire opinion of her, realizing that far from the ultra-confident, polished mentor he imagined, this woman is a glorious, certified mess. Usagi stares down at the concrete, her voice dropping into a quiet tone of profound desperation, wondering why her nights always fall apart like this. With raw honesty in her eyes, she softly admits that underneath the drinking and loud fronts, she just wants someone genuine to spend her time with. Hajime stands in thoughtful silence, trying to find the right words to comfort Usagi after she unexpectedly bared her soul to him. Stepping closer with a gentle smile, he sincerely reassures her, promising that her presence isn't an inconvenience or a burden to him at all. He goes on to confess that he was actually the one drowning in loneliness tonight, and stumbling into her completely turned his world around. Looking her dead in the eyes, Hajime declares that her vibrant, chaotic energy was exactly what he needed to survive the night. Usagi looks up in pure amazement, completely blindsided by his heartfelt words as a visible blush sweeps across her face. Deeply touched, her eyes glisten with emotion as she processes the realization that her presence truly meant something to someone. Unable to contain her gratitude, she flashes a massive, radiant smile that completely melts away the lingering awkwardness of the evening. The quiet street is suddenly broken by a loud, synchronized growl echoing directly from both of their empty stomachs. They share a hilarious moment of mutual embarrassment, realizing all that drinking and singing left them absolutely famished. With a dramatic burst of energy, Usagi points down the street, declaring it is time to hunt down a late-night diner to finish the evening right. They navigate the brightly lit city streets together, matching their paces as they search the town side by side. Usagi confidently leads the charge toward a vibrant local food market, promising that the local stalls serve the absolute best comfort food in Fukuoka. Drawn in by the incredible aromas, they follow their noses through the busy stalls, anticipation building by the second. They slide into a cozy, traditional food stall, immediately finding themselves tightly squeezed together in the intimate layout. Hajime blushes furiously as Usagi's soft shoulder presses directly against his, making it incredibly hard to focus on ordering. The chef serves up a couple of piping hot, legendary local Hakata ramen bowls, sending clouds of delicious steam into the air. Usagi's eyes light up with pure joy as she gleefully snaps her chopsticks apart, completely ready to devour the meal. They happily dig in, the rich flavors hitting perfectly after a long, emotionally exhausting night. Usagi polishes off her entire bowl in record time, letting out a blissful sigh of pure culinary satisfaction. Looking across the tight table, Hajime watches her eat, feeling a quiet, peaceful warmth settle over his chest. The heavy, suffocating anxiety about tomorrow's corporate life has completely vanished, replaced by an incredible sense of comfort. He realizes that as long as unpredictable, beautiful encounters like this exist in the world, moving to this new city might not be so terrifying after all. They step back out into the cool night air, the first hints of dawn slowly painting the early morning horizon. Usagi turns around, bidding him a highly animated, energetic farewell while waving her hand high in the air. She commands him to absolutely crush his first day at the office, promising they will meet up again real soon. Hajime stands beneath the fading street lamps, watching her silhouette disappear into the early dawn mist, his heart filled with a brand new courage. With the morning sun rising over Fukuoka, Hajime takes a deep breath, completely ready to march confidently into his brand new adult life. Ogami-kun's first day on the job takes an unexpected turn when he discovers his new boss, Takatsuki-san, is the very same wild woman he met yesterday. This early, awkward reunion is definitely not what he anticipated for his professional debut. Takatsuki-san immediately questions Ogami-kun's dazed expression, pulling him back to reality as he awkwardly stumbles through his introduction. The situation quickly becomes tense, confirming his worst fears about their professional relationship. Realizing Takatsuki-san is all business, Ogami-kun resolves to focus on his work, determined to keep their previous encounter separate from his new professional life. He steels himself to perform his best, despite the awkwardness. Takatsuki-san praises Ogami-kun's speed and encourages him to maintain his momentum, while also greeting another colleague. Ogami-kun responds with a slightly flustered, yes, trying to keep up. Takatsuki-san casually informs Ogami-kun that she has already organized all the meeting materials, leaving him completely baffled. He wonders how she managed to find the time to complete such a task so quickly. Takatsuki-san gracefully answers a call, thanking the person on the other end for their hard work as she moves through the office. She confidently agrees to take on the same project next month, demonstrating her effortless capability even while on the phone. A colleague expresses being stuck, and Takatsuki-san immediately offers her assistance with a warm smile, ready to help solve the problem. Ogami-kun observes Takatsuki-san's incredible efficiency, noting how she manages to train a rookie, handle her own massive workload, and still check in on everyone else. He concludes that she is undeniably the ace of the entire office. Ogami-kun reflects on Takatsuki-san's impressive professionalism, unable to reconcile her current demeanor with their wild first encounter. He marvels at her unexpected competence. Suddenly, Ogami-kun receives a message from Takatsuki-san, instructing him to meet her at the 15th floor outdoor smoking area during their lunch break. Nervously, Ogami-kun peeks around the corner, confirming he has arrived at the designated 15th floor smoking area. Takatsuki-san suddenly appears, leaning in close and startling Ogami-kun with an enthusiastic welcome to the company. Ogami-kun sweats nervously as Takatsuki-san presses him, subtly asking if he has kept their previous encounter a secret. Takatsuki-san visibly relaxes, adjusting her tie with a sigh of relief after confirming his silence. As Takatsuki-san lights a cigarette, she lists various types of harassment, while Ogami-kun internally panics, believing his career was almost over. Takatsuki-san explains that companies are now incredibly strict about compliance, a sentiment Ogami-kun readily agrees with, having heard similar stories. Takatsuki-san complains that people are too sensitive about minor issues these days, leaving Ogami-kun to ponder her words. Considering her point, Ogami-kun begins to formulate his own conclusion. Ogami-kun suggests they avoid being alone together, explaining it would be detrimental if others got the wrong impression of their relationship. Ogami-kun's proposal to keep their distance at work completely catches Takatsuki-san off guard. Before he can explain himself, she bursts into a flood of dramatic tears. She furiously pounds on his chest, accusing him of hating her and lying about everything they shared the previous day. Ogami-kun panics, desperately trying to de-escalate her explosive misunderstanding. Ogami-kun quickly clarifies that he only meant they should keep their distance while they are inside the office. He reassures her that hanging out outside of work is a completely different story. Her crying stops instantly as she looks up, desperately seeking confirmation that he is being sincere. Clasping her hands together with teary eyes, she asks if they can hang out again today. Completely flustered by her intense gaze, Ogami-kun can only stammer out his agreement. Overjoyed by his response, Takatsuki-san crouches down to hide her giggles as she trembles with excitement. Suddenly, she leaps into the air with an explosive cheer, completely catching him off guard. But just as quickly, her cheerful mood vanishes, and she grabs Ogami-kun with a terrifyingly intense stare. What wild demands is she about to make next? Takatsuki sighs in relief, realizing she almost crossed a major professional boundary with her intense emotional outburst. Ogami stands by, completely drained by the roller coaster. Clearing her throat, Takatsuki quickly regains her composure and sheepishly admits that she completely lost her cool. She enthusiastically rallies him to get back to work so they can finish their first day strong. As the long workday finally comes to an end, the office lights click off. Walking out of the office, Takatsuki happily praises his performance on his very first day. Meanwhile, Ogami feels completely exhausted from the non-stop mental stress. To reward his hard work, Takatsuki treats him to a local ramen shop for some authentic Hakata soul food. The two sit down together in the cozy restaurant, ready to finally relax after a chaotic afternoon. A steaming bowl of rich tonkatsu ramen is placed on the table, instantly capturing Ogami's full attention. Takatsuki ties her hair back in preparation, explaining that this is her first time trying authentic tonkatsu. She excitedly notes that a stronger aroma always means a much richer flavor. Taking his first bite, Ogami's eyes light up as the incredible flavor completely blows him away. Takatsuki eagerly dives in, slurping up her very first bite of the rich, steaming tonkatsu ramen. The incredible flavor instantly melts away her exhaustion, leaving her completely blissed out after their long day. Curious about his life outside of work, Takatsuki asks what he does at home. Ogami admits he usually sticks to solo hobbies, prompting her to ask for specific examples. He sheepishly confesses his current obsession with sewing, a delicate hobby that leaves her thoroughly impressed by his dexterity. But when Ogami asks about her own hobbies, a sudden wave of heat washes over Takatsuki. Sweating from the hot soup, she reaches up and quickly pulls her tight necktie loose. She pops open her top collar button to cool down while pondering how to answer him. Takatsuki reveals her hardcore routine of lifting heavy weights, visiting convenience stores, and buying nothing but alcohol and tobacco. She suddenly looks incredibly depressed, admitting she only spends time alone because she doesn't have any actual friends. Flashing a warm smile, Ogami reaches out and promises they will find new things to do together, but is Takatsuki's heart ready for this sudden leap in their relationship? Thrilled for their future, Takatsuki pumps her fists, unaware her tight shirt buttons are straining to their absolute limit. Suddenly, a button snaps off and flies right past a stunned Ogami, exposing her chest in an instant. Blushing furiously, Takatsuki looks down in utter embarrassment as the reality of her wardrobe malfunction sinks in. Takatsuki descends into a full-blown panic, wondering if she ate too much ramen. Ogami desperately tries to calm her down, suggesting it was just a loose thread. Tears well up in Takatsuki's eyes as she suddenly remembers Ogami's secret hobby. She realizes he might be her only hope. Pointing directly to her popped collar, she desperately begs Ogami to sew her shirt back together right this second. Ogami freezes in absolute shock, his brain completely short-circuiting at her sudden and highly intimate request. Leaning in closer, Takatsuki urgently demands he hurry up, leaving Ogami with absolutely no time to mentally prepare. Armed with a cheap sewing kit from a nearby dollar store, Ogami struggles to focus while Takatsuki nervously begs him to stop staring so intensely. But with the target directly in front of his face, how on earth is Ogami supposed to look away? Ogami's senses are completely overwhelmed by the intense proximity, scent, and sweat of Takatsuki's exposed chest. The highly compromising position only makes things worse, leaving both of them completely flustered in the narrow alley. Ogami desperately tries to quiet his racing thoughts, telling himself to stay calm and focus on the task. As Ogami begs her to stay still, Takatsuki complains about the exhausting pose and playfully asks if he is thinking about something weird. With a final stitch, Ogami successfully finishes the job, earning a bright smile and enthusiastic praise from a relieved Takatsuki. A wave of relief washes over Ogami as he humbly expresses how glad he is to help. Insisting on paying him back despite his polite protests, Takatsuki suddenly comes up with the perfect idea to show her gratitude. She casually invites him over to her apartment tomorrow, catching Ogami completely off guard. Ogami's mind immediately races to wild scenarios of private nighttime training sessions, sending his panic levels through the roof. Takatsuki suggests playing card games or staying up late to talk about their crushes, leaving Ogami wondering if this is just a middle school sleepover. But is he truly prepared for what awaits him at her apartment? Takatsuki suddenly shifts the tone of the conversation with a mischievous grin. She playfully licks her finger, teasingly promising that a special surprise is waiting for him at her apartment. Ogami gulps hard, his imagination immediately running wild at the highly suggestive offer. Before he can press for details, she places a finger to her lips and keeps the surprise a total mystery. With a playful shove, Takatsuki tells him to simply look forward to tomorrow, leaving him completely at her mercy. She gestures to her own body, boldly declaring that it is finally her turn to take charge. Flashing a brilliant smile surrounded by floating hearts, Takatsuki promises to give Ogami the absolute VIP treatment. Ogami's heart races as his expectations soar straight through the roof. As Ogami's mind spirals with wild ideas of what this VIP treatment could possibly mean, he is left completely terrified of what awaits him tomorrow. What exactly does she have in store for him? Only 2 days into his new office job, Ogami's life is already moving at a terrifying speed. He stands outside Miyako's apartment, completely overwhelmed by the fact that he is entering a woman's home. Ogami sweats profusely as he imagines a cute, pristine bedroom filled with stuffed animals and feminine charm. Miyako opens the door with a bright smile, warmly inviting him inside. But the moment Ogami steps inside, he is greeted by a mountain of trash, discarded clothes, and absolute chaos. He stares in absolute horror, unable to believe that this disaster zone belongs to a woman. Miyako sheepishly apologizes for having absolutely no floor space. Ogami politely claims it is fine, though he is completely distracted by a giant carrot cushion. Miyako tells him to make himself at home, but Ogami's eyes widen in sheer shock as she suddenly drops her pants right in front of him. She continues chatting about her failed plans to clean yesterday, completely unbothered as she slides her shirt off her muscular shoulders. She explains how tired she was, reaching back to unclip her bra and leaving Ogami utterly paralyzed by what she might do next. Ogami panics as his senior suddenly stands before him completely stripped of her outer clothes. Terrified, Ogami demands to know if this scandalous display is the special treat she promised him, while Miyako signals that she is just getting ready. Miyako suddenly blushes, realizing her mistake and quickly apologizing for her shameless lack of modesty. She explains that stripping down the moment she gets home is simply a hard habit to break. But as she tries to step out of her tangled trousers, disaster strikes. Her feet catch in the fabric, sending her crashing hard onto the floor with a painful groan. Ogami screams in panic, desperately asking if his clumsy senior is alright. Muffled against the floor, Miyako whimpers that she cannot get up and begs Ogami to help her. After finally getting changed into athletic wear, a flushed Miyako sheepishly admits the entire ordeal was incredibly embarrassing. Ogami tries to play it cool, but his racing heart begs the question, how will he survive the rest of the night? Ogami can only stare in disbelief as he realizes her tight athletic shorts leave absolutely nothing to the imagination. Shaking off her embarrassment, Miyako cheerfully promises to cook him a delicious, home-cooked meal to make amends. But cooking plans immediately screech to a halt when they look at the disgusting, trash-filled kitchen sink. Realizing she has to clean up first, Miyako casually pulls out a cigarette and lights it right there. Owagami immediately loses his mind and screams, demanding to know why she is smoking instead of actually cleaning. Owagami stares back with dead eyes as Miyako casually explains that she needs to blow off some steam before starting her chores. Her idea of blowing off steam is testing how many cigarettes she can stack onto a mountain of ash, sending Owagami into a total panic. Driven to his absolute limit by her chaotic lifestyle, Owagami collapses against Miyako and groans that he cannot take this anymore. Begging her to let him clean, Owagami furiously scrubs the sink and bags the trash, only to freeze in sheer horror when he accidentally picks up her lace bra. Within minutes, the apartment is sparkling clean, but this sudden domestic breakthrough might be leading Owagami into a whole new set of dangerous temptations. After Owagami works his magic, the entire kitchen shines like a brand new showroom. Miyako rewards his hard work with an incredibly close hug, sending his heart rate into overdrive. True to her word, Miyako takes charge of the stove to whip up her special dinner. She immediately fumbles with the heat, making Owagami seriously question if they will survive this meal. While waiting, Owagami does some quick mental math about the underwear he found earlier. He realizes Miyako is sporting a massive H-cup, shattering his concentration completely. The food finally arrives, and the simple Chinese combo actually looks and smells incredible. Miyako defensively warns him not to judge her simple plating. Owagami ignores the warning and takes a massive, hopeful bite. The bold flavors instantly blow him away, earning Miyako a genuine compliment that makes her beam with pride. To wash down the heavy meal, she cracks open a cold can of premium beer. With the plates cleared, Miyako slyly announces it is finally time for the mysterious special treat she promised him earlier. What kind of dangerous temptation is she about to reveal? Owagami's heart races as he remembers the special treat Miyako promised him next. Miyako tells him to wait patiently while she gets ready, prompting Owagami's imagination to run wild with thoughts of a bunny suit party. Miyako proudly reveals a massive hookah to Owagami. She explains she prepared it because she remembered his interest in vaping. Owagami stares in absolute disbelief, completely caught off guard by her wholesome yet unexpected choice. Seeing his frozen expression, Miyako immediately panics and worries she made a terrible mistake. Owagami quickly reassures her, admitting he has always wanted to try hookah but felt too intimidated to start. Miyako bursts into tears of relief, holding up her phone. She is overjoyed that her incredibly expensive, drunken impulse purchase is finally paying off. Miyako takes the first puff and passes the hose over, guiding Owagami as he takes a hesitant inhale. Thick clouds fill the room as both of them sink into the couch, fully enjoying their relaxing session. Miyako suddenly demands he drop the formal titles and call her by her first name, raising the stakes of their intimacy to a whole new level. Owagami hesitates at the sudden demand, but Miyako takes another slow drag from her hookah, waiting for his answer. Miyako blocks the door with her arms crossed, declaring that he will not be allowed to leave tonight unless he uses her first name. Owagami panics at the sudden house arrest. Owagami's mind instantly races to a scandalous scenario where staying completely silent means spending the entire night together in her bed. He desperately weighs his options, paralyzed by the sudden dilemma. Back in reality, Miyako stares him down in absolute silence until Owagami finally cracks under the pressure. He tries to compromise with a formal version of her name, but Miyako immediately pouts in disappointment, leaving him clutching his knees in agony. Blushing furiously, Owagami finally musters up the courage to say her name properly, causing Miyako's face to instantly light up with pure joy. Overjoyed by the breakthrough, Miyako lunges forward and grabs his face, demanding he look her in the eye and repeat it. Inches away from her face, Owagami weakly mutters her name once more as his heart beats out of his chest. Miyako eagerly demands one more repetition, prompting Owagami to completely lose his composure and scream her name at the top of his lungs. Completely satisfied with her victory, Miyako flashes a triumphant smile, but how will Owagami survive the rest of this dangerously intimate night? Sweating from the intense encounter, Owagami decides it is finally time to make his escape. As he heads down the hallway, Miyako bids him a casual farewell, catching him completely off guard. He quickly grabs his belongings from the couch, eager to escape the suffocating tension of her apartment. Suddenly, a shocking realization hits Owagami as he wonders why he didn't get to hear his own first name. He violently shakes his head, instantly scolding himself for harboring such ridiculously intimate expectations. Standing before her revealing outfit, Owagami laments that he is the only one acting like a blushing mess. Forcing a polite smile, Owagami bids her a formal goodnight and promises to see her tomorrow. Just as the door begins to close, Miyako flashes a dazzling smile and softly whispers his first name. The door clicks shut, leaving Owagami standing alone in the quiet hallway as the silence settles in. His heart thumps violently against his chest as he collapses to the floor, completely overwhelmed by her final parting shot. How will Owagami ever look her in the eye again after this devastating blow to his heart? Hajime and his senior co-worker Usagi find a quiet escape together on a secluded stair landing. Looking at her terrible diet, Hajime asks if she is truly okay eating processed convenience food for lunch. Usagi immediately gets defensive about his sudden questioning. Usagi proudly displays her collection of energy jellies and supplement drinks, insisting she has found the ultimate scientifically balanced meal. Hajime can only stare back with a completely exhausted and unconvinced expression. Usagi quickly deflects by criticizing Hajime's homemade bento, pointing out his humble leftovers as the truly bizarre lunch. Hajime ignores the tease and happily takes a bite, reminding her that home cooking is far better for one's long-term health. Usagi lights a cigarette and warns him that health talk is strictly forbidden for anyone who has already crossed into their 30s. But when Hajime asks if she can even pass her next company physical, she visibly panics. To prove him wrong, Usagi lifts her shirt to reveal a set of incredibly shredded, rock-hard abs. However, Hajime instantly shuts her down by asking about the state of her actual internal organs. Defeated and pouting, Usagi demands that Hajime start packing a daily lunch for her as well. She commands him to take full responsibility for her well-being, and a defeated Hajime reluctantly agrees, completely missing her celebratory smirk. Just as Hajime thinks he has the upper hand, Usagi grabs his wrist and eats a bite of his food. As Hajime grumbles about charging her for the stolen ingredients, the stairwell door suddenly swings wide open. Their manager, Nagar Hibime, steps through the doorway and expresses her surprise at finding them there. Hibime questions why the pair is hiding out on the stairs when the cafeteria is located downstairs. With a knowing look in her slit pupil eyes, the manager asks if she is interrupting their private moment. Usagi immediately breaks into a nervous sweat and lies that she was only giving Hajime an office tour. Hibime laughs off the tension, teasing them that she is simply thrilled to see them getting along so well. She strikes a playful pose and proudly introduces herself to Hajime as the self-proclaimed idol of the office. Hajime's eyes widen in horror as he notices a massive, realistic stag beetle hanging directly from her earlobe. Hibime cheerfully explains that the beetles are actually real taxidermy earrings, sending a terrified, bug-hating Usagi cowering behind Hajime. Will Hajime be able to survive this bizarre workplace dynamic? Nagar Hibime explains that her decades-long obsession with fashion drives her to seek out bizarre accessories. Beside her, Hajime quietly questions if wearing dead beetles is even legal, earning a sharp scolding from Usagi. Unfazed, Hibime flashes a brilliant smile and praises Hajime, claiming that attentive men are always popular with ladies. Hajime can only offer a weak, exhausted response before desperately trying to change the subject. Seizing the moment, Hibime clasps her hands together and cheerfully invites them out for Friday night drinks. Usagi immediately tries to decline the invitation by citing modern workplace boundaries. However, Hibime relentlessly pushes back, calling it a rare opportunity to drink with a beautiful woman. Suddenly, Hajime pumps his fist and enthusiastically accepts the invitation to go out. Usagi freezes in complete, wide-eyed shock at Hajime's sudden and unexpected betrayal. Smiling warmly, Hajime explains that a night out is the perfect chance for some team bonding. Looking down, a blushing Hajime gently tugs Usagi's sleeve and admits he only wants to go if she joins. Her heart completely melts, and a blushing Usagi finally gives in to his request. But with this bizarre trio headed out for drinks, what kind of chaotic trouble awaits them on Friday night? Hibime excitedly asks where they should go as they head out of the office together. Inside the elevator, Usagi suggests hitting up some local food stalls. Hibime enthusiastically agrees, pointing them toward the lively Nakasu area for their Friday night outing. But their plans hit an immediate roadblock as the doors slide open to reveal a massive, suffocating crowd. Before they can even react, the surging tide of busy commuters sweeps directly into the cramped elevator. In an instant, Hajime finds himself completely sandwiched between the two well-endowed women as the elevator packs tight. Trapped in a literal wall of flesh, Hajime desperately gasps for air as his face is buried deep. Usagi frantically apologizes and begs Hajime to hold on, while he can only muffle his sheer panic. Once they finally escape the crowd, a breathless Hajime collapses while Hibime cheerfully laughs off the chaotic ordeal. Night falls over the city, and the bright lights of the Nakasu district reflect beautifully off the water. Finally settled at a food stall, the trio clinks their beer mugs together, completely unaware of the chaos to come. Settling into the bustling food stall, Hajime finds himself crammed into another dangerously tight squeeze. He completely forgets his discomfort as he gazes up at the rustic roof, marveling at the local history built into the stall. A mouth-watering feast of local delicacies quickly fills their table, leaving Hajime amazed by the sheer variety of dishes. Hibime teases Usagi for her picky eating habits after she greedily polishes off 2 entire bowls of fried ramen by herself. Determined to help her eat healthier, Hajime offers a plate of steamed root vegetables, but Usagi immediately rejects them. When Hajime points out the irony of a literal rabbit hating root vegetables, Usagi defensively snaps back that her name has absolutely nothing to do with her diet. Refusing to back down, Hajime playfully tries to force-feed her the vegetable, shocking Hibime with his sudden boldness. Hibime bursts into hysterical laughter, teasing Hajime that he behaves exactly like Usagi's overprotective mother. The sudden tease freezes both of them in place, leaving Usagi with the vegetable stuffed in her mouth as Hibime notes how incredibly close they are. Flustered, Usagi pulls Hajime's head directly into her chest as an excuse, but Hibime's mischievous smirk suggests she might try to steal him away next. Hibime aggressively pulls Hajime close, suggesting they get even more friendly with each other. Usagi stares in absolute horror, pointing out that the boss is currently crossing the line into blatant sexual harassment. When Usagi asks if physical touch is the secret to bonding, the boss vehemently denies ever saying such a thing. Usagi desperately pulls Hajime into her chest, demanding that the boss give her man back. The boss refuses to yield, complaining that Usagi is being unfair by hogging him all to herself. The struggle intensifies, leaving Hajime completely trapped and unable to reach his food while the two women argue. As the night progresses, the boss waves goodbye, announcing her plan to hit a few more bars. Hajime watches her leave, clearly baffled by her relentless energy and wondering if she is always like this. Hajime cautiously asks if Usagi is mad, but she puffs out her cheeks and insists she is perfectly fine. Hajime stammers in confusion, wondering why her mood shifted so suddenly, but she shuts him down before he can press further. Usagi crouches in distress, fearing that Hajime's growing intimacy with others will lead him to abandon her. Tears streaming down her face, Usagi finally confesses that she has just been feeling lonely. Hajime offers comfort, promising that she has nothing to fear, but his words leave her completely stunned. Hajime smiles warmly, telling her she is someone truly special to him. Overcome with emotion, Usagi tearfully declares that they will be inseparable from this moment on. Without warning, Usagi pulls Hajime into a forceful, tight embrace, leaving him completely breathless. Usagi warns Hajime that she will hold him to his promise and make him regret it if he lies. As she walks away, Hajime is left questioning if that final physical contact was actually a hug. Hajime stands frozen in disbelief, frantically replaying the encounter and wondering if he really was hugged. Hajime stares at her departing back, completely baffled by the cryptic interaction that just occurred. The boss suddenly returns and catches Hajime off guard, leaving him paralyzed with embarrassment as he realizes how far he has let things go. He wonders if his boundaries have finally crumbled, and what kind of misunderstanding this will cause next. Hajime enjoys his first weekend as a working adult by sleeping until noon. Reflecting on the whirlwind of the past week, Hajime is suddenly interrupted by a persistent incoming call from Usagi. Hajime panics, his mind racing as he wonders why he said such intimate things to her during their last meeting. He tentatively answers the phone, his voice trembling as he greets her, completely caught off guard by the sudden contact. Usagi cheerfully responds, her upbeat energy instantly filling the line as she asks what he is currently doing. Hajime admits he just woke up and asks how she is, trying to keep his composure while he feels his heart racing. Usagi teases him, claiming she is hanging out on her balcony buck naked, leaving Hajime completely stunned and speechless. She quickly laughs off her own joke, clarifying she is actually just wearing underwear, which barely eases Hajime's growing anxiety. Usagi continues to toy with him, claiming she knows exactly what kind of dirty thoughts are currently running through his head. Hajime desperately pleads with her to stop messing with him, while Usagi just laughs at his frantic, embarrassed reaction. Usagi checks in on Hajime, asking if he has any free time to spare later today. Hajime is caught off guard by the sudden offer, but he eagerly agrees to go work up a sweat with her. The pair meets up at a public park, standing before the facility restrooms to start their intense training session. Hajime is already struggling to keep up, panting heavily as he admits he cannot continue this grueling pace anymore. Usagi remains energetic and unbothered, teasing him for already wanting to quit after just 2 miles of running. Exhausted and defeated, Hajime collapses onto a park bench, leaving Usagi to loom over his prone form. Usagi mocks his lack of stamina, noting that for someone who talks so much about health, he looks incredibly scrawny. Hajime wipes the sweat from his brow, smiling as he claims it feels good to finally get back into a workout routine. Usagi flashes a bright, determined grin, gesturing for him to get back on his feet and continue the session. Hajime freezes in confusion, wondering what she could possibly mean by moving on to the next one. Usagi pulls Hajime up from the bench, insisting that they move to a new spot. They arrive at the local track, a wide and empty arena perfect for their training. Hajime remarks that he has never visited a track before, surprised that it is open to the public. Usagi mentions the cheap entry fee, keeping the mood light as they prepare. Usagi drops into a sprinter's crouch, telling Hajime she is heading out for a few laps. She commands Hajime to sit tight and watch her closely while he catches his breath. Usagi confirms she is ready to go, her posture focused entirely on the track ahead. She explodes into a sprint, leaving Hajime completely stunned by her raw speed. Usagi slows down and looks back over her shoulder, checking on her partner. Hajime stares in awe, praising her incredible speed. Usagi modestly claims she was a former track star, though she feels out of shape now, which Hajime quickly denies. Hajime beams with genuine excitement, telling Usagi that watching her run was truly cool. Usagi blushes, brushing off Hajime's praise with a modest, bashful smile. Hajime suddenly finds a new surge of energy, stripping off his jacket as he prepares to run again. With a determined shout, Hajime launches himself into a sprint, fully committed to the challenge. Usagi watches him go, her face lighting up with intense excitement as she cheers him on. But the strain of the track quickly catches up to Hajime, his heavy breathing echoing in the quiet air. Hajime collapses onto the track, his body completely spent from the grueling pace. His eyes flutter open, revealing he has regained consciousness after his sudden physical failure. Usagi hovers over him in a panic, checking to see if he has recovered from his collapse. Overcome with guilt, Usagi begins to cry, blaming herself for pushing him beyond his physical limits. Hajime struggles to comfort her, desperate to ease her sorrow despite his own exhaustion. Usagi tears up as she asks Hajime if he truly enjoys their time together. Hajime quickly reassures her, his face bright with sincerity as he confirms he loves their outings. They sit together, Usagi expressing how much she genuinely values his companionship. Hajime feels relieved, admitting he feared he was just a burden to her. Usagi continues to cry, moved by his honesty. Usagi wipes her eyes and asks if he would join her for an outing to a place she has chosen. Hajime grabs her hand, enthusiastically agreeing to go with her tomorrow. Usagi beams, realizing this is a date, while Hajime grins in pure delight. Suddenly, Hajime winces, his face twisted in pain as his body fails him. Hajime struggles to stand, his legs shaking uncontrollably as his strength completely gives out. Usagi laughs, declaring she will simply carry him home herself to save him the trouble. Hajime flushes deep red, desperate to escape the mortifying bridal carry as he pleads for a different method. Usagi obliges, effortlessly shifting Hajime into a piggyback position while he stammers in sheer embarrassment. Buried against her, Hajime protests that this new arrangement is even worse than the first. Usagi laughs off his complaints, teasing that his weight makes for excellent training as she carries him home. Hajime confirms he feels much better, settling into the rhythm of the journey home. Hajime smiles, offering a bashful thanks for the ride once they finally reach his doorstep. Usagi flexes her arm with a wink, brushing off the effort as if it were nothing at all. They share a final, cheerful wave as they prepare to part ways for the night. The door slams shut, but Hajime freezes in his tracks when he realizes Usagi is walking right in behind him. Hajime panics, eyes wide as he demands to know why she is following him inside his own home. Usagi winks at Hajime, suggesting it would be much easier if she just stayed the night at his place. She insists they are all set since she packed a change of clothes, leaving a flustered Hajime to reluctantly accept the situation. Usagi smiles warmly, clearly thrilled that they will be sleeping in the same room tonight. Hajime stares back in total shock, his face burning as he wonders how he could possibly sleep with her so close. Usagi jumps into the shower, clearly enjoying the moment as Hajime realizes he is stuck with her for the entire night. With only one tiny apartment and a single futon to share, Hajime faces an impossible living situation. Hajime stares at his drink in a panic, terrified that he will not be able to sleep a wink with Usagi so close by. Usagi calls out to Hajime from behind the curtain, her tone light and teasing as she prepares to change. Hajime flushes bright red, stuttering as he desperately tries to process her casual request for privacy. Usagi instructs Hajime to look away while she changes, her voice softening as she directs him to give her some space. Hajime turns his back, eyes squeezed shut as he tries to ignore the sounds of movement coming from the bathroom. Every rustle of fabric echoes in the small room, leaving Hajime trembling as he wonders what is happening right behind him. Hajime suddenly jumps when he feels a hand on his shoulder, his heart racing as he fears the worst. Usagi emerges wearing his pajamas, beaming with a cheerful smile as she thanks him for the gear, completely oblivious to his internal crisis. Hajime stares ahead in a daze, his mind struggling to process the chaotic scene unfolding before him. Usagi offers to use the hairdryer, but insists on towel drying her hair first to avoid any immediate noise. Hajime watches, completely flustered as he tries to maintain some semblance of composure. Usagi casually announces her intention to shower, leaving Hajime to scramble for words in the sudden, awkward silence. Usagi strikes a playful pose, pointing out that her towel looks just like a scorpion. Hajime can only watch, completely drained by her relentless energy. Hajime mutters that it actually resembles a fried shrimp, causing Usagi to burst into laughter at his unexpected comment. Usagi finds the comparison amusing and decides to accept it, clearly enjoying the light-hearted moment between them. Hajime breathes a sigh of relief, grateful that Usagi is simply acting like her usual, unpredictable self. Panic sets in as Hajime looks around, suddenly realizing that Usagi has vanished from his immediate sight. Hajime reaches for the shower controls in a frenzy, accidentally triggering a blast of freezing cold water. He gasps in shock, jolted by the sudden temperature change. Shivering under the icy spray, Hajime realizes that the shock is exactly what he needs to clear his overwhelmed mind. Usagi lounges, smoke drifting from her cigarette as she settles into the quiet evening. Hajime arrives, offering a polite greeting to Usagi as he steps into the room. Hajime extends a cold beer toward her, wordlessly asking if she wants a drink. They sit together, sharing a drink in the dim light. The tension between them begins to fade into a comfortable rhythm. They talk about the hardships of work. Usagi checks in on Hajime, asking if he is finally adjusting to his new life. Usagi crushes her cigarette, offering a reassuring promise to help Hajime whenever he faces trouble. She beams at him with an encouraging smile, declaring that she will handle anything he needs. Hajime smiles back, feeling relieved and agreeing that he will rely on her strength. The mood shifts as Usagi suggests it is time to call it a night, but she has one final request before they sleep. Usagi turns around and demands that Hajime dry her hair, leaving him stunned by her sudden closeness. Hajime carefully dries Usagi's hair, marveling at how soft and beautiful it feels to the touch. Usagi teases Hajime, surprised by his sudden, earnest compliments and wondering what prompted them. Hajime attempts to describe her hair's unique, golden luster, but his strange comparison leaves Usagi confused and slightly flustered. Realizing his mistake, Hajime fumbles for words, hoping to clarify his awkward comment before it gets any weirder. He settles on comparing the glow of her hair to a precious gemstone, catching Usagi off guard. Usagi accepts the compliment with a smile, confirming that her hair is perfectly dried and ready for the night. The pair winds down in the bathroom, brushing their teeth together in a quiet, domestic rhythm. Hajime tries to maintain boundaries by offering to sleep in the hallway, away from the bedroom. He gestures to the futon, insisting that Usagi should take the comfortable spot for herself. Usagi stares back in complete shock, unable to understand why he would choose to sleep elsewhere. Usagi breaks down in tears, demanding that they simply sleep together instead of wasting time with boundaries. Hajime stammers in protest, clearly uncomfortable with the sudden change in plans. Usagi lashes out at him, asking if he truly harbors such a strong hatred for the idea of sharing a bed. Sweating profusely, Hajime tries to explain his hesitation but finds himself tongue-tied. Usagi dismisses his concerns entirely, insisting that there is absolutely no problem with them sleeping together. Usagi makes herself comfortable on the futon, firmly patting the spot next to her for Hajime. Hajime hesitates for a moment before finally relenting, deciding to join her on the mattress. They share a quiet moment, Usagi smiling softly while Hajime looks on with a flushed, bashful expression. Usagi grows impatient with his shyness, physically pulling him around to face her. Hajime confesses that he has been a total nervous wreck since she arrived, finding it impossible to meet her gaze. Usagi is completely overwhelmed, her face flushing as she finds Hajime far too adorable. She reaches out to ruffle his hair, unable to contain her affection for the flustered boy. They lie together, the intimacy of the moment catching both of them off guard. Usagi stares at him, her eyes wide, while Hajime struggles to process her sudden closeness. She admits she is feeling quite comfortable, her mind blanking as her heart races. Hajime tries to maintain his composure, but the physical contact leaves him completely breathless. Usagi demands to know why he is so silent, grabbing his head to force his attention. They share a warm embrace, both finding the closeness surprisingly soothing despite their initial nerves. Usagi drifts off to sleep with a content smile, while Hajime watches her, pondering her unpredictable nature. As Usagi sleeps, her hand lingers on Hajime, leaving him wide-eyed and unable to escape the tension. Usagi pulls Hajime close, showering him with affection as she playfully rubs her face against his. As the night deepens, Usagi drifts into a peaceful sleep while holding Hajime tight. Yet, as she drifts off, something shifts in the shadows of the room, threatening the quiet moment. A new morning arrives, signaling the end of the previous day's hectic events. Hajime wakes up on his futon, rubbing his eyes while preparing for the day ahead. Usagi suddenly leans in, pressing her chest against Hajime's face and leaving him completely stunned. Usagi greets him with a cheerful morning, her smile bright and full of energy. Usagi pins Hajime down, urging him to hurry up and change so they can finally head out. Usagi shows off her new outfit, asking Hajime if she looks sharp and ready to go. Hajime stares in disbelief at her daring choice of clothing, completely overwhelmed by the situation. Usagi decides to leave her belongings behind, promising to pick them up next time they meet. They arrive at a massive, bustling shopping center as the sun begins to climb high. Hajime leads the way, explaining that he felt like doing something outdoors today as they walk together. Usagi excitedly suggests they head to the Senbutsu limestone caves for their next outing. She reads the sign aloud, noting the caves are open year-round with electric lighting provided. Hajime enthusiastically agrees with her choice, finding the idea of exploring the caves awesome. Usagi expresses her love for dark, cramped spaces, leading Hajime to remark that she is acting like a rabbit. Usagi suggests taking the Shinkansen to Kitakyushu to get there in 15 minutes, though Hajime hesitates at the sudden plan. Usagi turns around, urging him to hurry to the ticket counter so they can get moving. Suddenly, Usagi grabs Hajime's hand, causing him to freeze up in total surprise. Usagi pulls him along by the hand, leaving Hajime completely flustered as he asks what she is doing. Hajime panics and pulls his hand away, apologizing for his initial reaction to her sudden touch. Usagi blushes, telling him she is willing to do anything he asks today, leaving Hajime stunned by her bold promise. Hajime hesitates for a moment, his eyes wide as he considers her bold proposal. They pause at a local shop to grab some limited edition bentos for their upcoming journey. The local train for Kakura pulls into the station, ready to carry them toward their adventure. Seated on the train, they tuck into their meals with genuine delight. Hajime remarks on how worth it the extra cost was for such tasty food. Usagi excitedly points toward the passing scenery, urging Hajime to look out the window at the view. The train rolls past the landscape as Usagi reminisces about her childhood spent in this region. Usagi laughs while recalling the days she spent playing with the local dogs. Hajime listens, finding the mental image charming and sweet. They share a quiet, comfortable moment watching the world go by. Hajime agrees that it feels good to finally just relax for a while. Usagi reflects on her busy work life, noting that even her travels usually feel like just another commute. She admits she has never spent time quite like this before. Usagi turns to Hajime with a radiant smile, confessing that she is having a fantastic time being with him. Usagi tells Hajime not to get ahead of himself, reminding him that the main event is still waiting. The pair finally reaches the entrance to the mysterious Senbutsu cave, and Usagi celebrates their arrival. Usagi points at the cave with excitement, while Hajime handles the admission fees at the ticket booth. Usagi remarks on how easy it is to enter the limestone cave, noting the lack of crowds during the off-season. The quiet, cool, and dim atmosphere of the cave begins to settle over them as they explore. Hajime notes how much Usagi loves enclosed spaces, and she admits that she finds the cave incredibly relaxing. Usagi jokingly declares that she has an instinct to crawl into any hole she finds, leaving Hajime flustered. Usagi claims the cave feels like a private space, telling Hajime that she feels safe in the quiet surroundings. Usagi leans in close and whispers that the isolation makes it feel like they are the only two people left. Seeing Hajime's stunned expression, Usagi quickly laughs it off and admits that her comment was a bit too much. Usagi lets out a sharp cry after accidentally slamming her head against the low ceiling of the cave. Hajime rushes over in alarm, checking to see if she is alright after the painful impact. Usagi laughs off the pain, admitting she simply was not paying attention to her surroundings. Hajime sighs to himself, clearly embarrassed by the sudden display of clumsiness in the dark. Usagi reassures him that she finds his genuine concern endearing and likes that side of him. She tilts her head, wondering aloud if Hajime is trying to tease her with his sweet words. Hajime quickly denies the accusation, insisting he is genuinely trying to compliment her. Hajime breathes a sigh of relief, hoping his earnest explanation was enough to clear the air. Usagi stares back at him with a soft expression, finally accepting his explanation as the truth. They trudge deeper into the icy cave water, shivering as they push forward into the dark. Hajime hands Usagi a flashlight, noting that the path ahead is now pitch black. They encounter a claustrophobic section labeled as the Hell Tunnel, and Usagi is visibly unsettled by the eerie atmosphere. Despite the daunting narrowness of the opening, Usagi remains undeterred and eagerly pushes forward into the gap. Hajime follows behind, unable to look away from the view as Usagi navigates the tight space. Usagi lets out a sudden cry of pain as she unexpectedly hits her head against the ceiling of the tunnel. Hajime rushes to check on her, his concern evident as he asks if she is alright after the collision. The pair reaches a new section, and Usagi points out how the cave walls are closing in from the sides. Hajime stares at the tightening passage, his face pale as he doubts whether Usagi can actually squeeze through. Usagi is momentarily stunned by the narrowness, but she quickly confirms that she can just barely fit through. Usagi confidently claims the passage is easy, while Hajime watches in silent, growing alarm as she gets stuck. Usagi realizes she has pushed her luck too far and admits that she has seen enough for today. Hajime desperately tries to stop her, warning that backing out now will only make their situation worse. The inevitable happens as Usagi becomes wedged tight in the rock wall. Panic sets in for them both, but will this claustrophobic trap be the end of their journey? Usagi is trapped in the narrow rock wall, unable to move a muscle. She panics, demanding a quick escape from the suffocating enclosure. Hajime is pressed right against her, struggling to breathe as he finds himself buried in her chest. Usagi notices the contrast between her soft chest and her firm, cool stomach as they remain tightly wedged together. Hajime desperately tries to clear his racing mind, telling himself this is hardly the time for such distracted thoughts. Usagi admits she is starting to have inappropriate thoughts, while Hajime struggles to maintain his composure in the tight spot. Usagi cries out in pain as a jagged rock digs into her waist, narrowly missing a more serious injury. Tears well up in her eyes as she desperately searches for any path to freedom from the rock prison. Hajime is startled when Usagi suddenly calls out to him, her voice echoing in the narrow tunnel. Usagi reaches a breaking point and asks Hajime to unhook her bra in a desperate attempt to gain some space. Hajime stares back in complete disbelief, unable to process the request as the situation spirals further out of control. Usagi explains that her bra uses a front clasp design, putting the hook within his reach. She illustrates how undoing it might create just enough room for her to escape the trap. With no time to lose, she pleads for him to roll up her shirt and undo the clasp using his mouth. Hajime struggles to keep his composure, questioning why he feels so flustered by her desperate plan. He tells himself his motives are purely practical as he leans in to follow her instructions. The tension peaks as Hajime makes contact, and Usagi lets out an involuntary cry of surprise. She urges him to keep going, even as the intimate nature of the situation overwhelms them both. With a sudden snap, the clasp gives way, finally granting Usagi the release she needed. Hajime cheers in triumph as they both tumble out of the narrow, suffocating rock passage. Now free, Usagi lies there in the open, breathless and dazed by the intensity of their escape. Hajime and Usagi find themselves in a compromising position, leading to an immediate, panicked apology from Hajime. Usagi teases him about his behavior, her voice cutting through the quiet air as they emerge from the tunnel. Standing outside, Usagi announces that they have returned to normal, though both remain visibly soaked from their ordeal. Hajime looks down, clearly embarrassed and apologetic for the intimate circumstances of their narrow escape. Usagi brushes it off with a smile, dismissing the trouble as a natural part of any unexpected trip. Usagi suggests they look back on this as a great memory, while Hajime remains overwhelmed by the intensity of the day. Usagi shifts the mood, shyly requesting that he simply forget the specific details of how they escaped the trap. The pair happens upon an ashtray, providing a sudden and welcome opportunity to settle down after the chaos. Usagi proposes a smoke break in the sun to dry off, and Hajime eagerly agrees to the reprieve. Sitting together, they reflect on the jarring shift from their life-or-death struggle to this peaceful, quiet moment. Usagi happily munches on a bun, savoring the snack while enjoying their quiet moment together. Usagi asks what they should do next, and Hajime eagerly suggests going shopping to keep the momentum going. When asked what she wants, Usagi pauses to consider before deciding that a new hair clip would be nice. She explains that she usually sticks to simple hair ties for her braids, but she feels like trying something a bit cuter today. Hajime beams with excitement at the suggestion, clearly happy to help her find something new. Usagi jokingly asks if he wants to try wearing a beetle on his head instead, causing Hajime to panic at the thought. Hajime quickly pivots back to the original plan, asking if she wants to head out to buy those hair clips right now. Usagi hesitates, admitting she has a bad habit of losing accessories as soon as she buys them, leaving her unsure about the purchase. Hajime looks down at his phone, feeling dejected, and suggests they might need to rethink their plans for the day. Seeing his disappointment, Usagi gives a cheerful thumbs up and promises that if he picks it out, she will actually treasure it. Usagi contemplates two different hair clip styles, weighing the merits of each for her new look. Usagi presents the options to Hajime, asking him to decide which one he finds more appealing. Hajime studies the clips, while Usagi waits with a slightly pouty, expectant expression. Hajime points to the second clip, confidently telling Usagi that it matches her vibe perfectly. Usagi turns around, posing to ask if he really believes that choice makes her look better. Hajime stammers in panic while Usagi leans in, demanding an answer to her question. Hajime flushes and admits that he thinks she looks cute, leaving Usagi absolutely delighted. Usagi immediately reaches for the selected clip, announcing she will buy it for herself. Hajime insists on paying for the gift, explaining that he wants to treat her for the day. Hajime anxiously asks if the gesture is inappropriate, and Usagi shyly agrees to accept his kindness. Hajime hands over the shopping bag, and Usagi accepts it with a grin, clearly delighted by the purchase. Usagi presses the bag to her chest, promising Hajime that she will treasure this gift for the rest of her life. Hajime is completely blindsided by her emotional pledge. He stammers in disbelief, struggling to process the weight of her words. Checking his phone, Hajime notes it is getting late and suggests they wrap up their day of shopping. They exchange casual goodbyes before parting ways. Usagi steps away, leaving the shop behind as the evening settles in. Usagi pauses to tell Hajime that he was incredibly cool today. She seems deeply impressed by his actions, leaving him flushed and flustered. She strikes a confident pose, warning him that the next time they go out, she intends to be the one who takes the lead. Hajime stands frozen as the realization finally hits him. His heart hammers against his ribs as he wonders if their entire day was actually a date. Usagi arrives at work, greeting her colleagues with a beaming smile and a cheerful wave. Ogami-kun notices her immediately, while someone else points out that she is still wearing the hair clip from yesterday. Usagi greets Ogami-kun warmly, her eyes lighting up the moment she spots him. She leans in, her face flushed as she coyly asks if he has forgotten to say something important. Ogami-kun stammers in a panic, his face reddening as he tries to compliment her look. Usagi gives a confident thumbs up, declaring she is ready to crush the day ahead. Ogami-kun salutes her with newfound determination, fully committed to following her lead. Later, Hibaim-san approaches, thanking Usagi for her help last week with a relaxed, friendly smile. Ogami-kun finds himself staring intensely at the back of Hibaim-san's neck, lost in thought. Hibaim-san asks if she is giving off a pheromone vibe, then reveals her earrings are actually dried sardines. Hibaim-san confirms that her sardine earrings are indeed edible, leaving Ogami-kun completely stunned by the revelation. She winks playfully, teasing Ogami-kun that her being edible does not grant him permission to take a bite. Ogami-kun insists he has no intention of eating anything, while his co-workers watch the entire exchange with intense, unblinking stares. Ogami-kun sends a text message inviting Usagi to join him for a lunch he prepared, and she eagerly accepts the invitation. Usagi stretches out at her desk as the clock strikes noon, signaling the start of her break and their planned meeting. Ogami-kun prepares to leave with his lunch bag, but he is abruptly stopped by a sudden demand from behind him. Two of his co-workers, Mamatabi and Tori, corner him in the hallway, looking determined to get his attention. Ogami-kun sweats profusely, desperately wondering what his colleagues could possibly want from him so suddenly. Mamatabi and Tori corner him, prying into his recent interactions with the tall, gorgeous Takatsuki-senpai and the mysterious Hibaim-san. Ogami-kun stares back in utter confusion, completely bewildered by the sudden interrogation regarding his social life. Ogami-kun sweats nervously, wondering why his co-workers are misinterpreting his life as a series of cryptic, dramatic events. His colleagues immediately jump to the most scandalous conclusions, assuming he has already moved his romantic life into the bedroom. Ogami-kun recoils, stammering in total denial while Usagi clings to him, oblivious to the awkward tension filling the hallway. He tries to brush off their accusations, but his frantic, formal tone only makes the office gossip mill spin faster. Mamatabi and Tori corner him completely, demanding he spill every intimate detail about his love life by the end of the night. Ogami-kun retreats to a quiet stairwell with Usagi, lamenting that his evening plans have suddenly become completely out of his control. He hangs his head in defeat, offering a sincere apology for the complicated situation they find themselves in. Usagi stares at him in total confusion, completely baffled by why he feels the need to apologize for her presence. She reminds him that she promised to be by his side every single day, brushing off his concern as a simple misunderstanding. Ogami-kun smiles, confessing that he could never forget the day they first met, cementing their bond even further. Usagi tells Ogami not to worry about her, encouraging him to head off and enjoy his lunch with his colleagues. Ogami apologizes for the chaos, but his intense hunger begins to drown out his words as his stomach audibly grumbles. Usagi hands over the lunch container, eager for him to finally see what she has prepared. The box snaps open, revealing an adorable bento featuring a perfectly crafted character shaped like a rabbit. Ogami is stunned by the artistry, while Usagi snaps photos, admitting she got a little carried away in the kitchen. With a bashful look, Ogami admits that he would love to see her actually taste the meal she worked so hard to create. Usagi steals her nerves and lifts a small bite with her chopsticks, but as she prepares to eat, a sudden, unexpected sensation stops her cold. Usagi savors the meal, but she mourns the destruction of her meticulously crafted bunny bento. She struggles with a mix of joy and heartbreak, while Ogami watches her emotional display with a gentle smile. Ogami attempts to push a large sum of money toward her to cover the cost, but he is instantly met with a refusal. Ogami insists she just treat him to another meal in the future instead of taking the cash. Usagi is visibly flustered, suggesting a lavish, multi-course dinner as a potential future plan, though she quickly backpedals. With the meal finished, the empty bento container is set aside with a definitive clack. They share a pleasant moment of appreciation for the lunch, already looking forward to their next culinary exchange. The scene shifts to the evening, where colleagues offer their well wishes as the group heads out for the rookie mixer. The drinks are raised for a toast, and the group immediately pivots to interrogating Ogami about his private life. Though they claim to respect his privacy, they cannot help but press for answers, leaving Ogami trapped in the awkward spotlight. The co-workers settle into the private room, eager to move past formalities and dive into a night of personal inquiries. Usagi confesses her recent obsession with handicrafts, though she admits she struggles to maintain interest in any single project for long. Ogami shifts the topic to his own passion for physical exercise, claiming he can handle everything from ball games to marathons. Usagi surprises everyone by revealing her hobby is cosplay, though she quickly clarifies that her costumes are far from being the sexy kind. She proudly displays a photo of her creation, leaving the group stunned by the level of detail and undeniable cuteness of her outfit. Ogami is floored when he learns that Usagi actually crafted the costume entirely by herself, impressed by her dedication. Usagi continues to probe the group, suggesting that everyone should try their hand at cosplay, which leaves Ogami feeling slightly uneasy. The conversation takes an intense turn as Usagi turns her focus directly toward Ogami, hinting that he should join in on the fun. Ogami is caught completely off guard, stammering in confusion as he realizes he has become the center of her attention. Usagi leans in close and bluntly asks if he has any interest in cross-dressing, leaving a panicked Ogami scrambling for a way out. Momotaro corners Ogami, praising his slender and fit physique while suggesting he would look great in a costume. Ogami desperately asks if Momotaro is drunk, but she only leans in closer, calling him a charming mini-cutie. Without warning, Momotaro lunges forward and bites Ogami's shoulder, causing him to cry out in pain. A colleague watches the bizarre display in total disbelief, frantically questioning if Momotaro has developed feelings for Ogami. Momotaro brushes off the concern, bluntly stating that she isn't interested in the colleague, but finds Ogami's body perfectly suited to her specific tastes. Torai-kun, feeling ignored and offended, demands to know why he isn't considered an option. Momotaro offers a cold dismissal, telling Torai-kun that his body simply isn't her type at all, leaving him gagging in defeat. Torai-kun erupts in dramatic tears, loudly complaining about how unfair it is that Ogami receives all of Momotaro's attention. Momotaro stares back with a hollow, intense gaze, acknowledging that the situation is indeed unfair for the others. Momotaro begins to unbutton her shirt, signaling that she is about to take things even further with a trembling Ogami. Momotaro continues to unbutton her shirt, boldly inviting a completely stunned Ogami to consume her. Ogami recoils in absolute terror, shouting at her to stop and put her clothes back on immediately. Ignoring his protest, Momotaro lunges forward with intense energy, declaring that she will take the lead. Torai-kun cries out in pain after receiving a sharp slap, while Momotaro coldly rejects his desperate advances. Torai-kun finally snaps, demanding Ogami take his place as he unbuttons his own shirt in a fit of defeat. Ogami is pushed to his limit, shouting that he has absolutely no intention of eating anyone at all. The group pauses to acknowledge the chaos, agreeing to move past the awkward confrontation to focus on their work. Momotaro and her colleague share a supportive thumbs up, promising to look out for each other despite the madness. Ogami offers a bright, relieved smile, expressing his genuine excitement to continue working alongside them. The group exchanges awkward, hasty goodbyes as they finally part ways, leaving the bizarre encounter behind. Ogami smiles, genuinely relieved that the chaotic encounter ended with everyone parting on friendly terms. He realizes these are the first true friends he has made since arriving in Fukuoka. Suddenly, a doubt creeps in, making him question where Usagi-san actually fits into his life. His heart begins to race, and he wonders if this deep, confusing connection is something much more.